Okay, I'm here to run a couple of experiments, and forgive me because I have not been, I'm not very tidy. The one thing I have figured out, though, is how to keep my camera from moving around so much. There we go. I'm going to put it right over this work. Okay, the challenge has been the combinations of heat transfer foils and what tools will transfer the heat. And there's an explosion recently because of the foil quill, which works in your Silhouette Cameo or Cricut or one of the other digital cutting machines, transferring foils. So there's that kind of foil. Plus, We Are Memory Keepers also has this tool. And now they have another one, yet another one. So they have actually 3 tools now that deal with heat transfers. And there are others, not just We Are Memory Keepers. They make really good products, however. The new one I saw, which was really kind of nice, was when they're tools that really look like the foil quill. They plug into a USB device that plugs into the electricity, so they don't use batteries. This one uses a battery, or a couple of batteries. I forget now how many go in here. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Years and years ago, I had this tool here. I won't even go much into it. It's called a Magic Pen for hot stamp writing, and it takes a battery as well, which I left in there and didn't use for years and ate through the barrel. That's what this mess is about. Okay, then the other tool I use a lot, and it's hot, so I'm trying to be careful with it. I use this one a lot in my various work, and what this is designed for. And also I have another one. 1, 2, 3. I have another one that I don't use very often that's shaped like this, and it's an iron used to iron for quilters, ironing small tiny pieces. It has a head that looks a little bit like this. This one is designed for hot wax stylus, so hot wax art. So that's what this one is for, and it's made by Handy Tool or Handy Corp or something like that on the back. Handy Corp. I've got it plugged in, and as you can see by the blazing yellow light, it's hot, so I'm trying not to burn myself with it. Okay, so that talks about all the tools. I don't have the latest one from We Are Memory Keepers, and they showed it, and the value of it compared to the foil quill is that you can use the same kind of technology and foil to foil on things that couldn't go inside of your cutting machines. They're too thick, like leather book binders or whatever you might want to foil that just won't fit in the machine. So they've covered that base. The other thing they didn't cover is, they had a very nice video, and the only thing they didn't cover is how to do things manually when it doesn't have quite the precision that you can get through the computer software in your cutting machines. But it still enables you to foil, and they showed some people who are very steady with their hands and could write their names or the name of something. So what I then wanted and wondered, my curiosity, but before I go into that, I'll set this aside. There are several kinds of foils. The Deco Art foils and a whole bunch of products that are like that are thicker. You can just tell by touching them that they're thicker. They usually have this silvery coating on the back. And these are designed for a combination of a slight tackiness and heat that will transfer the foil. Now, the foil used by We Are Memory Keepers and others, and I bought a whole roll of this, by the way. This is a shiny foil. It's much thinner, and it has a different kind of a backing usually. I don't have a piece of the We Are Memory Keepers foil, but it's much thinner. It's probably maybe half the thinness of this Art Deco. Now, the Art Deco needs the tackiness and heat to make it transfer. So if it has a gluey surface of some sort, now that's why the laminating machines, you'll see people who make laser print copies, and they tell you that only the laser will transfer. And the reason is the laser powder, or whatever it's called. I'm not technically competent, but I do know that when that laser copy goes through the laminating machine, it heats up and becomes slightly tacky. That tackiness plus the heat transfers this foil rather nicely to whatever you can get through the laminating machine. But again, it will only take thin items. Okay, so there's various kinds of foils. Bottom line is some can transfer with heat only, which is what these tools are designed for, and usually it's the thinner foils, and others need a tackiness plus the heat to transfer. And this is what I think I have discovered. All right, I work with polymer clay, and I have transferred this material that needs the tackiness, by the way, by just placing this product down on my polymer clay, which is slightly tacky, and then I use this tool here, and I can get the foil from this product to transfer. So obviously I can get the foil to transfer as well from, sorry about my light, from the thin foil, because if the thick foil will do it, I can get the thin foil to do it. So that only needs heat. Now, the only problem I run into for those of you who work with polymer clay is you might bake the clay a little bit, depending on how long you keep the heat and how hot the heat is. So you'll have to deal with that. Cure it or bake it, whatever you want to call it. Now, the tool that I saw recently demonstrated by We Are Memory Keepers, as I said, was yet another tool that enabled you, if you don't have a cutting machine and you want to transfer foil and you want to transfer it to items that can't fit through your cutting machine platform, it's much like this. It's like this, only it's ergonomically smarter, and it doesn't use batteries. As I said before, I don't have that. Probably won't get it because I don't need it. I have enough. But my problem was, suppose you don't have a steady hand when you're trying to transfer the foil manually. So now I've been looking for things that would create a stencil that was heat resistant, that these heat tools would not melt. And I've been using again my cutting machine, and you can't quite see these, but I use 2 sheets of laminator. This is designed to have to laminate cards. You run the 2 sheets through. You put your card in the middle or whatever it is you want to laminate, and you run it through your laminating machine. But I discovered, not alone, somebody else on YouTube pretty much taught me how to do this, which is wonderful. I put the 2 sheets of the laminating sheets together, ran it through my laminating machine, and it makes a rather nice, sturdy stencil material. Then I used my cutting machine to cut these unbelievable stencils. They're really tiny, really, really tiny. And I use those in my clay work, okay? But this material is already somewhat heat resistant because it goes through the laminating machine, or has already gone through the laminating machine. So I thought, well, I could use this. The problem with this is I haven't found, and maybe I'm going to experiment live right here, if it will take any ink. And yes, look, this takes ink. So if I had something to copy, you know, a design to copy, and I don't have anything handy at the moment. Let me look around here. No, I also have silk screens, but anyway, I did have these napkins. So if I had something to copy, I could use this laminating machine as well. The only problem is it's a little bit too thick. Now that I've got it doubled up, and it's great for stencils, it's probably, even though you can write on it like this, like I've written here, if I put this over, so let me try. If I put this over one of the pieces of foil, now I know it's not going to work with this foil, so I've got to get this silvery foil that I've got a piece of, I've bought. So I have this silver foil, and this is the right kind that will only take heat. And assuming that those 2 little circles, which of course I could easily draw by hand anyway, assuming those I would like to foil, say I wrote my name, and I need a guide because I can't do this freehand. Now, those other tools from We Are Memory Keepers are a little ergonomically designed better than these. They're smaller, but still, to do any kind of design work, and I'm going to try it right here. I'm going to go over this line. Of course, I'm erasing it. And I'll tell you the pen that I used. Not all pens work. I'm going to go over it several times and see if I get a transfer. Okay, because if I don't, then I can demonstrate another solution, maybe. All right, let's see what that does. Well, nothing. Okay, so as I said, this stencil material, which is too big, won't work. But while I have my heat device, and I have a stencil handy that is heat resistant, let's just try this. And so a good heat resistant stencil, and I believe it will work. Let me see. Now I'm moving this around haphazardly because I'm in a hurry, but I know it will transfer. And this is so close to the camera because I have it really up close. I'm going to try and transfer a few of these little alligator-like skins. And the wonderful thing is, yes, the stencil that I personally made from a double laminator sheet going through the laminating machine and then being cut really with these unbelievably little spaces with my digital cutting machine, I believe I'm going to get a transfer. Now, I'd have to work this out a little bit and be a little, I can see it transferring. I don't know that you can see that on camera. I hope I'm on camera. I'm pretty much, yeah. So if I wanted to get these little dots like alligator skin, let's try them again, see what I get. It's a matter of using enough, going over the image enough. And the nice thing about this piece is if I hold it straight up, I can get a little wider tip. Holding it on the edge gives me a bit of an angle, but that means I'm not getting the wider tip. Anyway, okay, so what I'm going to do is stop here for a minute and show you that yes, that the thing that We Are Memory Keepers demoed, the one that plugs in rather than uses batteries and heat and can be used on things, I have just found and there may be other stencils out here that are heat resistant, but many of them will melt. And because these laminating sheets are going through a laminating machine which provides quite a bit of heat, I know they're heat resistant. So for anybody that's interested, I believe this is working. I'll show you in a minute. All right. Oh, my hand's tired. All right, I'm going to remove my stencil. You can pretty much see it's been transferring. And now I could have done a better job. Some of these are, I'm going to shut my little device off. Some of these transferred better than others because I worked at it harder. See, there's a nice full transfer there. And this one here I could have worked harder at. But if you need a guide of some sort to guide whatever design you're trying to foil on objects that might not otherwise fit in your cutting machine, or maybe you don't want a cutting machine. Of course, I have to say I use the cutting machine to make the stencil, so there's value there. So that's the solution for designs that you don't have a steady hand for and want to replicate. On this cutting, I also have in this stencil, I've made shapes that I want. And then I have this design, which would have been really cool to put on here. I'm not sure this one would have worked. It's like a little stitch design, but I have my doubts that it's too small, so it wouldn't work. But this alligator skin has potential, and I've made several of these, so we know that will work. So the next thing that would work, I haven't tried Scotch tape yet, and that might work as well. You know that frosty tape? Okay, here's the foil that I know transfers with the heat and doesn't require any stickiness. So I'm going to lay that down there. Now, if I wanted to use my, well, I should have let that Yeah, I should have let that stay on. So I'm going to heat up my handy dandy device. Okay, what this represents is, let's see if I can find the right side. And it's already starting to wear off. I wrote my name. Whoops, that's backwards. Okay, there it is. All right, and what this is the the foil that I told you only transfers with stickiness and heat, and I used for polymer clay. I actually transferred whole sheets of it, as you can see. See down here, this has not all been transferred yet. By the way, this won't transfer with just heat on this foil. The silver one will. I have this thing heated up again, and it's probably the hottest tool I have. And I can press this to my pretty much heart's content on here. Whoops, it's out of the screen. Can't see it. Yeah, I can press this down with the heat, and maybe some of it will transfer, but it needs a little stickiness. Yeah, I must have some stickiness on the paper where I laid the polymer clay down. Yeah, so, yeah, like here. Whoops, I'm trying to keep this in the camera frame without burning myself. And I know I drive people crazy with when I'm holding the camera. Of course, I couldn't do this and hold it. But anyway, this is very, very, very hot. And it doesn't transfer. Okay, so that foil needs a tiny bit of stickiness to the surface, a tackiness, if not sticky. Now, I have found a product called Eline's. By the way, while we're on it, Eline's Tack It Over and Over. And I've put that glue in a very fine container, and I could write my name or a design on the item with this. And if you don't apply, it's both a glue, but it's a tacky kind of thing. It's Eline's Tack It Over and Over, and you can draw your design with a very fine tip, which this has. Let it completely dry, and it remains tacky. And then you can put this foil that needs the stickiness. You don't even need any heat. It'll stick right to it. So, it doesn't need a combination always of tackiness and heat. But the less tackiness it has, like the kind you get with polymer clay, the minimal, it needs a little bit of heat. But if on baked polymer clay pieces, I have used that glue to add a little bit of gold just here and there on various pieces, and it will transfer off, say, the Art Deco foil, the heavier foil. All right, getting back to the thinner foil and how to use the heat tools only and have some sort of guide. All right, because I know this is heat resistant material that old foil is on, or even this. If I were to get all of the silver transferred off of this sheet, I would end up with big, clean, wide open spaces like this. In fact, here is one of the same foil material as this silver, but only it was gold, you see? And I have cleaned off by transferring all of this gold foil to something. I can't even remember what. But I kept what was left. See the little bits of gold that still remain on here, which doesn't matter. But by way of a guide, I also know this is heat resistant, obviously, because the heat pens and various enable the gold foil or silver foil to get transferred. So I know this is heat resistant. So I could put this over on top of. My big problem was, what could be written on it? How can I get a design printed on there so I could follow it? Now, I did find, and other things will work. I haven't experimented with all of the types of writing implements that would write on this. Some will, and some won't, especially a fine. But these are called Zebra. Let's see if I can read this. BP. I don't know. They're very fine. My husband bought these, and I don't even know where he got them. But they're almost like too fine for me to use for anything else. I'm trying to see what this says on it. F30 or F301, let me see, '07, 2mm. I think it's 2mm. Or is it 7? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I can't read it. It's zebra. I don't know if you can find these because I don't know where he got them. And I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if you can see the writing on it easier than I. No. Anyway, whatever. I can't tell you, but experiment. Anyway, what I was able to do was take the film that the gold was on, much like the silver, and saved it, and then I wrote my name. Okay? See, it writes nicely as a guide, because I know I couldn't do that on the gold freehand. All right. So now I'm going to put this away so I don't burn myself again because it's hot. And now I'm going to use this tool here. And what I want to show you is that if you need a guide, much like a stencil, looks like I didn't do that very well. All right, you can just slip this over the top. And let me start with the little flower I drew. Now I could have traced the design, but anyway, and it's not anything I probably couldn't do freehand, but let's assume this was a very intricate design and I wanted to follow it. And the good news is, let's see, those little tools that We Are Memory Keeper are a little easier to handle than this. But this is what I have. So I'm going to go around each of these. If I had to put it in a certain place, at least I have a guide. And and many of you may feel the same way, but that tool, if We Are Memory Keepers just sold the carrier sheet, like this thin sheet, with certain pens that would work. Let's see how that transferred. It's very tiny. Yes, look, transferred nicely. Can you see that? I mean, really easily. So if I had a book or a leather cover I was trying to do, suppose I was trying to, see, there it is, and it's transferred, you can see. Now, so we've sort of solved the problem, or figured out how to make something work. I'm thinking the Scotch brand tape, if you put the Scotch brand tape and stuck it to this shiny side of the thing, and after, well, okay, back up. Put the Scotch brand tape on a polypropylene document cover that's clear. Place that over whatever design you want to copy or foil. Use a pen similar to this to trace over that design. Then pull off the Scotch brand tape, because it will not permanently stick to the document cover, polypropylene, clear plastic. Then pull it off of there because it'll still stay sticky. Then put the tape on top of this foil and then go for the design. Now, if I taped this, I wouldn't have my fingers in the way. But all I want to do is show you how this would work. So I'm trying to write my name as small as I can, but I could use this as a guide. I could also just draw lines to keep it straight. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with this. All right, I don't think I did a very good job, but let's see. Yeah, look, there it is. So it did. All right, so I have found one way using the carrier sheet. Once you take all the foil off of here, as you can see, you got a carrier sheet, and this wide. If I removed all of the foil from here, I would end up with a sheet that will take ink sufficient to draw a design or trace a design. For example, if I wanted to use this wonderful, I can do this rather quickly, this flat sheet. I could empty all of this foil. I could take it off this nice wide piece. See how it's doing? And I could almost make it perfectly clear. There we go, look. All right, and then that piece, assuming I've got it all nice and transferred, which you don't even have to have it completely off. Okay, so look. No, I don't have it off. So what I'm trying to give you is find some a material that will take the heat, allow you to trace a design on, put it on the foil, and then go for your transfers. Okay, that's the part that was missing in the lovely videos. These are not lovely videos. All right, so I've done most of it, right? Bits and pieces have not come off, but here it is, the sheet. And if I had a design, say, like, suppose I wanted to put, this is just a napkin. I'm playing with some other things right now. So here's a napkin. And suppose I wanted to trace this goose's head. And foil inside of it or whatever. All right. As you can see, I got the goose's head. Put a little eye on him. And put this aside because I finished using that to take all of the... But I think Scotch tape, the Frosty brand, will work. So what I will do now is... where's my... Oh, I don't have a knife handy or cutting handy. What I'm trying to do is cut this off so I can use the end of it. Darn, I have a pair of scissors. Let me have a pair of scissors. I'll just rip it. All right. The static electricity is starting to cling. But you can see I've got the little duck head. I have a little bit of foil left over. Put the duck head on there. Go for my little pen-like. I'm sorry, I'm not in the camera frame again. I get carried away. It's either I'm jerking the camera all around giving everybody a migraine headache, or I don't have it in frame. So anyway, here we go. There we just trace. And I would tape it down if I was trying to do something serious here. Besides experiment. That's all I'm doing is experimenting. Whoops, it didn't work, did it? I think I just had turned on my... I just had turned on the pen. I had shut it off so it wasn't hot enough. But I think I can... Yeah, there we are. So you just go slowly. I know this is not... I should have taped it. As with like sticky tape. If I stick these things together, that's why I think the Scotch brand tape, if you cut a design, and I don't have time to stop this and start it again, I'll be on to something else in a minute. I believe the Scotch brand tape, you can copy a design. Remember to stick the tape on a clear plastic sheet that the tape can be removed from, and I know for sure document covers are made of the right kind of plastic that the tape can be removed. So there you go. Not wonderful for sure, but that's the idea I wanted to cover, is finding something you could trace intricate designs so that if you don't have a steady hand, you can still get a transfer. And that's it. I don't know if this has been helpful to you or not, but I'm on my way to... The only experiment I wish I had done for you is the Scotch tape, because I have a feeling that would work really well, and I could do a fancy design. But you get the idea. You're on your own now to find ways to make it work. But I believe with that, you can using the thin foils and whatever tool you have to foil objects that are not flat enough to go through a laminating machine or cutting machine platform. Well, hopefully this is useful. If not, sorry about wasting your time.